church game. While everybody else is looking around playing checkers, this man actually is playing chess with y'all.
Revolution, people. Won't need a binem. I've always felt that she was crazy, but she damn near schizophrenic now. Revolution, people. Seriously.
When are we going to stop allowing Jamal Bryant to just be the embarrassment to the body of Christ that he is?
Revolution, people. When you were sitting up
to the body of Christ that he is
supposed to be the church in this situation, the church should be the lead. The government should be coming to the church to say, how can we help you? Not how you can help the government. Revolution, people. Be the light of the world. We should be the light of the world. We should be where they come to look at that city on the hill. Our light should shine. Our light should be on that stand, not under the bushel. Joel Osteen, you should be the city on the hill, but you sit up there underneath your bushel in your $10 million house. It is what it is, people. All right, everyone. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution.
Revolution, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth, and let's get right into it. Bishop Tommy Dexter Jakes, he is no dummy when it comes to this church game. While everybody else is looking around playing checkers, this man actually is playing chess with y'all.
Revolution, people. Won't need a binem. I've always felt that she was crazy, but she damn near schizophrenic now. Revolution, people. Seriously.
When are we going to stop allowing Jamal Bryant to just be the embarrassment to the body of Christ that he is?
Revolution, people. When you were sitting up here supposed to be the body of Christ and you're supposed to be the church in this situation, the church should be the lead. The government should be coming to the church to say, how can we help you? Not how you can help the government. Revolution, people. Be the light of the world. We should be the light of the world. We should be where they come to look at that city on the hill. Our light should shine. Our light should be on that stand, not under the bushel. Joel Osteen, you should be the city on the hill, but you sit up there underneath your bushel in your $10 million house. It is what it is, people. All right, everyone. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution.
Hey, Revolution, everybody. Revolution. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I hope that everyone can hear me. I hope that everyone can see me pretty good. Let me get this a little bit better here. All right. Yeah, today is going to be a good day, because we have a lot of stuff to get into and not a lot of time left. It is 9 o'clock. By the way, let me say Happy New Year to everyone. I thank God for another year that I'm able to see. I thank God that we are here and that the revolution is going to grow and that we are going to grow with it. And a lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff is going on. Like I said, we got a lot to cover today. And I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of, you know, intros to this. We just got a lot to talk about, you know. But before we get started, I'm going to tell you before and after, remember, please subscribe and share this podcast of, you know, this broadcast, this live stream. Please subscribe and please share. Also, you know, to follow us here at The Revolution, go to facebook.com / The Church Folk Revolution. You can follow us there. If you want to reach out to me, I can still take friend requests, but just let me know. You can hit me up on Messenger or something like that. If you want to be in, you know, as a friend of mine, just know that, you know, I don't deal too well with church folks. So, you know, not that I cut you off. I just do a lot of ignoring, you know. But if you want to come in, you know, my name is Leonard D. Robinson II. So I'm not hard to find. This ugly mug will be up there on the picture, so you can do that. As it relates to that, this year, over the holiday break, I began to think about how I can, you know, broaden myself and begin to start to put myself out there a little bit more. I come up with an idea of doing a podcast, just audio only. Not a video live stream, but just an audio podcast where I can, I want to see if just want to make sure that it looks like everyone can hear me, because I don't see any complaints coming from everybody. So I'll get back into the chat room in a little bit. But I'm going to do an audio version, not an audio version of this, but just a podcast that I'm going to use it as an audio journal. Just basically 5 to 10 minutes a day of what I'm thinking. And during that, I'm going to allow that to be a place where I will put, for instance, rebuttals to, say, comments that have been posted about these videos, because I had a bunch of people complaining about me not liking demons. A lot of y'all spooked about these demons, and y'all spooked about them and want to, like, oh no, they're real, oh, there's demons and they're gonna get you, you know, type of stuff. And I realize I say some things sometimes, and you know, that may, you know, ruffle a little feathers. That's cool, that's good, I guess. But like, I'll take some of that when I'm, you know, I'll go through some of the comments and speak about that on the podcast. So look forward to that. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get my first episode up this coming Sunday. Each Sunday, I believe that's the date I'm going to use to upload the podcast. Something for some of y'all church folk that, you know, you might want to go on the way to church. But it won't be just this, you know, church stuff. There will be some church stuff. There will be some Bible study. What I may be personally studying in scripture, I may want to talk about. Also, what's going on in the news, what's going on in politics, what's going on maybe locally, because I got myself into some stuff with a dog catcher of all things, politically. Plus, I think that I might be someone wrote me in for a political office, someone being my wife, but someone wrote me in, and from what I understand, I'm the only person that got a vote. So I might be an elected official, so I might be talking about that very soon. But besides that, there's a lot of things that's going on. and I want to use a journal type situation and publish, you know, just my thoughts on a daily basis. But I'll compile it on Saturday and Sunday, upload it Sunday, and it should hopefully it'll get some good responses. And I'm always looking to ideas. That's something that I don't think people have done as a type of journal, instead of just you know, like they'll come up with their own show, their own topics. During that journal, it'll be on a whole lot of different things, and I would let you know excuse me, as it relates to those situations. All right, now we're going to get started on this, and because I'm going to edit up the videos and everything like that, we're going to get started. Excuse me, hold on. All right, everybody, let's get started. Revolution. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth. Today, first topic for tonight, we're going to talk about this woman. This woman is Irishea, I think that's her name, Hilliard. Now, the reason why we're going to talk about her is it was announced about a week ago that her daddy, I.V. Hilliard, Bishop I.V. Hilliard, out in Houston, Texas, New Light Church. If you're familiar with the Word Network and TBN, I think he's on TBN, BET, definitely. You know, I.V. Hilliard, Bridget Hilliard. Well, it looks like he's trying to do the Fred Price route of trying to take a back seat, and allow their children or their child. That's right, he's disowned the kid, but I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But take their offspring and move them in as pastor in order for them to maybe travel, be everybody's preacher type of deal. So he's trying to do that traveling preacher circuit without the pressures of having a pastor in a church, not pastoring a church. Now, she's been doing a lot of that pastoral stuff anyways, but now they've taken it to another level. And they put out an article to some blog on, it was called You Gospel. And it was all this glowing stuff on the blog. And I posted this on my social media. I posted that blog on my social media last week. And on the Church Folk Revolution fan page. And I didn't expect a response, a big response, as much of a response to that as I got. But I think a lot of people are kind of put off by the fact that you have a church, but it seems like the church is not necessarily about the body of Christ. And I said this on my social media page. I said, when people start talking about building the kingdom of God, they're not necessarily thinking about the kingdom of God that we look at it. No, they're looking at it from their perspective of what their kingdom is and how they can get all the glory and how they can make all the money. And it's basically they created their own fiefdom, right? And they have their serfs, which are the church folk, which are their members. And the serfs are sitting up there, you know, is interesting. But if you understood what happened in serfs and, you know, the serfs and everybody back there in Europe in the, you know, about 1,000 years ago, the rich folk owned the land, they would own the town, they would own everything. And the poor folk, which were the serfs, would come in and work for them and give up all their substances to the rich person. So ultimately the rich person was living pretty. And this one was living high on the hog and everything like that. Back when we weren't supposed to like obesity, but they loved obesity because that meant that you were rich, and those were the nobility folk, because they were eating everything, and all the serfs were eating nothing. So that was all a part of that. That's what's going on in this church, and that's how I see this right now. Fred Price was very similar to this by bringing on his son. You have other churches all around the country doing the same thing, you know, and right now you have all these folk doing the same stuff, right? So on this past week, we get the announcement that Ms. Irishea is now the senior pastor, which started this past weekend as the senior pastor of the New Light Church in Houston. Now, looking at her bio, we found something that was very interesting and that we are currently investigating. I'm just going to read to you from her bio real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and continue on a little bit. After attending the University of Oklahoma and Sam Houston State University, majoring in accounting, she decided to stop pursuing her dream for her life of being an accountant. That's some dream. And fulfill her true purpose and join her parents in the ministry by carrying out the ministry's vision. Okay, so now we sit up here and see that we have a college dropout. But if you do notice something about the name, I didn't put, and typically I should have did this, but I didn't put Dr. Irishea Hilliard. I just put Irishea Hilliard. But in her bio and in her website, she's known as this. I'm going to continue on reading. I don't care too much about this other stuff, right? But this is very interesting. She recently became Dr. Irishea Hilliard after receiving her doctorate in urban youth ministry. Due to the tireless hours she spends counseling and educating youth around the world. Now, how can someone without any schooling sit up there and say that they became a doctor? She says she became a doctor after tireless hours she spends counseling and educating youth around the world. Where they do that at? Who? See, that's not how doctorates work, people. That's really not how doctorates work. But apparently, Ms. Hilliard is a doctor because she spent hours counseling and educating youth. See, my wife is a licensed therapist, and she went to, she spent about 2.5 years trying to get her master's degree in counseling. She also spent another 1.5 years trying to get her license, just her license, to be a counselor. It was a process that probably took close to 4 to 5 years for her to complete, and she did that this past September. Now, if she wanted to go ahead and do her doctorate, yes, she can go ahead and do her doctorate, but it's not because of tireless hours of her counseling. No. It's about the study. It's about the fact that you went to school and give them folks some money. So part of my investigation is first of all, reaching out, and I'm trying to do this without trying to spend money, but reaching out to Oklahoma and Sam Houston and basically asking, trying to find folk, and just haven't found the right person yet, but did she actually graduate from there? And I'm trying to find out if she got her doctorate from, say, a little, from a real school, or from one of those online degree factories. Everyone who sits up there and complains about Umar Johnson, and I'm going to talk about him later, but for everyone that complains about the illegitimacy of Umar Johnson, y'all need to be just as pissed about, from Umar, you should be just as pissed about her. Should be just as pissed about this woman right here. Now, I want to play for you a few videos. We'll talk about it. I'm going to play for you a few videos. One of our revolutionary sources does a great job of getting information for me, and I appreciate the work that she does for us. It's great, trust me. And she was able to go online and find this, and I'm trying to pull it up right now because I have other stuff going on. I gotta pull this up. So she has found basically the service in which she was announced as the thing. So I'm gonna play this. It's only a few minutes long. I'm gonna play it and I'll talk a little bit about it. And I'm trying to get it so that, for whatever reason, if you're hearing some buzzing or whatever, I'm trying to get this whatchamacallit thing to work right. I just keep getting buzzed because I have a lot of stuff going on outside of this show. All right, but let's take a look at this, and hopefully it'll play right, and we'll go right to that. Let's see if it'll
for your successor, I gave you a baby child that was a girl. You thought you had missed it, but you didn't.
What do you mean?
The reason her name is Irishea Hilliard is because I was believing for a boy to be my successor that I would name after myself. So the Lord told me today that I did miss it. You are the promised seed. And so, as we have just said, this is a public acknowledgement. This also is prophetic agreement. This is about the preeminent anointing that's on your life. And this now is about this whole thing about purpose. Purpose authorization. It is for this cause that God has brought you into the earth. It has been your purpose all along.
All right, before I continue on and play the next video, what do we get? See, stuff like this do bother me, because while we're sitting up here looking at all this stuff, and yeah, all this stuff here, we're looking at all this stuff, this whole nepotism thing really bothers me, because it seems as if all these folks are sitting up there supporting this girl, and it's okay. She supports, young lady, I'm sorry, young woman, supporting her. But when do we have this thing where, because you're a preacher's kid, that you got to be a promised seed? Somebody help me out with that. What's going on where we got to have, where because you're a preacher's kid, that you're the promised seed? And speaking of seeds, have they actually spoken to Irishea yet? See, for if you don't know, the Hilliards actually, they say they have, I think, 3 daughters, but they actually have 4. And see, Irishea is the 4th one, but because she left the church, back in, I think it was like 2000 or so. I may be incorrect on the years, but because she left the church, they left her. She's been disowned by the Hilliards. So now you're going off on this whole thing of, no, this one's the promised seed, but what happened to your other seed? And nobody seems to have a problem with the fact that you have another daughter that has grandchildren, that has your grandchildren, but you have it in your heart to disown somebody because they left your church. Maybe because she talked about it in her book, maybe because she found out some of the stuff, some of the wild stuff that you were doing, Ivy, that she didn't want to be a part of, but yet you disowned her. But yet this one's the promised seed. Where do they get that from? Where do they get that at? Promised seeds. I ain't feeling all that. No, not feeling that at all. But if you want to know, there's a book, Irishea Hilliard. The book is entitled, and I should have downloaded the cover and put it up here because I forgot. But she wrote a book. It's called Going to Church to Catch Hell. And it's her story. It's basically her memoir of her experience being in that church and dealing with her parents and the fact of the decision that she made to leave the church and how that affected the relationship from the time that she left the church to this current day. Because it looks like they have not reconciled Irishea. They're going straight to Irishea as if that's her, you know, that she's the promised seed, I guess. Yeah, also, just so that you know, when we had the CFR show, and I'll say something about this Irishea thing too. That interview with Irishea, it was done back in 2011, but that interview with Irishea was actually the first time that I listened in to the Church Folk Revolution radio show. And at that time, I was following along on the penpreacher.com, and they posted up that they were having this radio show, and that was the first time that I actually really tried to listen. See, back then, the cell phones didn't have, you know, Blog Talk Radio didn't have an app for cell phone use. I didn't know about calling in to listen to the show at the time. I literally took my laptop and was hotspotting while I was in my cab. I was hotspotting just to listen to all over the place. I was trying to find places where I could find Wi-Fi connections so that I could hear the show. And that was the first time I listened to the show. And from then, that's when I became a regular part of the revolution. Because then I would start listening. I listened to the shows. And once I found out that they archived the shows, then that was really good, because sometimes I couldn't listen in live. And it was later on that summer that I started becoming an active participant, participant in the revolution. And it was this interview right here that from Irishea, when she talked about being disowned by the Hilliards, you know. But let me digress. I went down a little bit of memory lane. Let's continue on, okay?
Who waits to get the baton before they can run their leg of the race? You have been waiting, and the time is now. Your mother and I, we have spent our lives building this church. A lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of joy. Amen. And it is with great joy tonight, with no hesitation, with no wondering if, because I've watched God raise you up. I've watched Him toughen you up so that you can be the leader that this church requires. And watch God open your ears so that you hear his voice. Can't leave this church without hearing the voice of God. The people need to know that you hear God. So I can pass you this baton knowing that you're ready.
Let's continue on.
Run your race. Amen. You are a winner, girl.
All right, so now you saw the videos. Now, see, so much of this church stuff is so crazy, just such a mess. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. But she's your pastor at New Light Church, and here's the interesting thing. He also announces that he's going on to basically head up their international outreach or something like that. Basically what that means is that he wants to go and preach other places, and he wants to go preach and be on someone's docket, get paid to go to your church, whether it's in Houston, or get paid to go to New York to preach, or go to somewhere in Africa. Yeah, they all want to go to Africa, but he wants to go ahead and do all that stuff without having the real ties of trying to say that he's, you know, has to have the obligation of being a pastor. That is the game, people. This traveling preacher thing, it's a game, and that's a part of the game. That's what he's talking about here. So that's what's going on down in Houston. Once again, the family business. It's just a family business. And the folks just sitting up there eating it up. They supporting because they serfs. You know, you don't have to be a serf, people. You could do something, but you don't have to be a serf. But that's what they want you to be. All right, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution. All right, real quick, I want to take a quick break because I need to refresh my libations. Because for some reason, I don't know why, my throat is messed up. But I want to take a quick break, get myself more water, and we will go back to getting that done. So just give me a few minutes.
Revolution, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth and
All right, I'm back. I'm back. And before we finish up, let me first take her picture down. All right. Let me look at some of the chat. I'm trying to look at some of the chat here and see what we got here. Yeah, Mr. Marshall, it does look like Mr. Marshall Johnson says sounds like a product of the Friends diploma mill. Yeah, it seems like it. It's very interesting when you say that you're going to have a doctorate. You mention that you did not complete schools, but you say the names of the schools. But in the Bible, you don't say where you got your doctorate from. That's kind of what that is. You know. So I'm trying to figure that out too. So we're looking into it. But I'm trying to do it the free way. Trying to do it the free way. All right. Yeah. C. Taylor says she got it from the same place as Juanita Bynum, where Juanita Bynum got hers. Yeah. It's great. Yeah. Like I said before, you can look at Kamisha's book. It is called. It's still available on Amazon. It is called Going to Church to Catch Hell. Going to Church to Catch Hell. So make sure, so you can check that out, and you can get to that. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to say. Oh, this is some interesting information. Tiffany says, for clarification, everyone, Kamisha is the biological child of Bridget Hilliard that she had out of wedlock before she met Ira. That's some interesting information that want to get that out there. And that's about it. That's about it on that one. So let's get started. Let's get started on our second story real quick, so that we can get. I know I'll get to the reason why you clicked. I know we want to deal with James Hall, but before we get to James Hall, well, both of these are good stories. They're both good stories, anyways. But let's get to the second one. Revolution. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and right now, let's deal with Brother Umar and Brother Tariq. You know, in this Hotep warfare here. If you're not familiar and you don't pay attention to what's going on in the conscious community, I understand. I really don't pay attention to it, except for when the stuff goes off. All right, just so let me catch you up to speed on everything like that. First of all, Umar Johnson, for the past like 5 or 6, 7 years or something like that. If you're not familiar, Umar Johnson is a somewhat popular speaker, lecturer, psychologist, school psychologist. We'll talk about that in a second. In the black consciousness community. But he got his notoriety from interviews that he recorded for a documentary series that was produced by Tariq Nasheed. That documentary series is called Hidden Colors. I've seen a couple of them. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a couple of them. Interesting information. I don't necessarily agree with all the information, but you know, it is what it is. It's a documentary. There's some things that you can, look to, find out, whatever. Besides that, Umar decides that he wants to start a school, and he starts taking online donations, and people all around is basically saying that he's basically stealing money from the folk. Okay, it is what it is. But then they also began to say that not only is he stealing money from the folk, but he's also lied about his credentials. So Umar, when given this new information, oh, I forgot. Let me put up the graphic here. Did that the last time. Let me put the graphic. All right, so Umar decided about 2 weeks ago, when he got this information that he was going to have a hearing on this coming Monday, January 8th. He took it to his online social media, whether I think it's Instagram, basically to say that the state of Pennsylvania is coming at your boy, and you know, we need to support and rally around the fact that all these black folk decided to complain to the white man, and how the white man is coming after your black man, and it's all self, you know, blah, 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 blah. So in the course of that, there was a hashtag that came out that basically said Umar's delicensing party. Now for me, I didn't like the hashtag. So I made my own little statement, basically saying that all of y'all, a lot of y'all who are trying to hold Umar accountable, y'all can't even hold your own pastors accountable for your never-ending building funds, but y'all want to hold him accountable for having a school. Interesting, you know, not really big, but I was trying to stay neutral on Umar, you know, even in light of this past summer when the first thing of him coming out with questions about his licensing and his doctorate came out, that I went through and was able to find that at the time he was licensed, but that was back in June. That was 6 months ago, so stuff has evidently happened since then. But I found that he was a licensed school psychologist. He was not a licensed psychologist. Now, in the state of Pennsylvania, where I reside, school psychology is not under the same jurisdiction as psychology. See, psychology is operated through the State Department, and you know, along with psychologists, you know, you got doctors, lawyers, different things, but their licensing all goes, you know, to be licensed in the state. Not only just, you know, they're all, you know, those professionals, not lawyers, but professionals, are underneath the Department of State. However, school psychologist is viewed as an educator. That profession is viewed as an educator, so it's under the Department of Education. Okay? So once I was able to figure that out, I put that information in the video, and people were still upset with me about it. Still upset, and I was like, well, whatever, I didn't care. So now, we have a situation where Umar, now, because people weren't satisfied with any of the information that was given to them about it, and it's their right, now he has to go to the state on Monday. Now, as of this point, I think that he was able to get a continuance, so they're going to reschedule the hearing date, at least from what I understand. So we'll follow that up a little bit later. But let me catch you up to speed. On this past Friday, okay, on this past Friday though, Umar again went to his Instagram and basically said, listen, y'all, I'm going to expose Tariq Nasheed on his, you know, on his live stream. When given that, when given that information, Tariq decided, oh, he's going to expose me? Well, I'm going to expose him. So on Friday night, there were dueling live streams of Umar and Tariq going at each other at the same time on their own social media platforms. Now, I'm watching this stuff on Saturday, and I saw a portion of what Umar had to say about Tariq. And then I saw what Tariq said about Umar, and at least in my opinion, I think Tariq won the battle. Oh, he won the battle. But here's the situation as it came. You can go ahead. I'm not going to, and here's the thing. I'm not playing any video of that because, you know, I've played a lot of cussing recent, a lot of cussing videos, and recently, and both these cats, they do a lot of cussing in their videos on this stuff. So I decided I'm not gonna play any of that videos this week because of that, and the fact that to get full context, I'd have to show a whole lot of it, and I don't want to do like a reactionary thing. Plus, I really don't care too much about the fight per se. But what I do care about is, as I was watching all this stuff and I was talking to friends about it, and I basically said, listen, I'm taking notes. Because as I'm watching this, I'm realizing that there are lessons that we as a people can learn. That there are lessons that we can learn so that we can all grow from this situation. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the 10 lessons. 10 points, 10 lessons that I've extracted from this. Now, as you're watching this video, and after you hear the 10 that I've given, please, people, we can learn from this stuff. We can learn from this fight. We can learn from this discussion. And instead of just be like, ooh, that line was good. That line, ooh, Bantu knots, ooh, Nefertiti rings, oh, yes, dashikis, and, and I'm a descendant, and all this stuff. And besides going in all that stuff, there are actual things that we can learn. That's what I'm about. So, in the comments, if you learn something out of this, please share it with us. Okay? After I'm done, I'm posting this portion, this written portion, the written portion of my lessons on my social media. And there, if you want to add on to it, please add on to the discussion there, because there are lessons that we can learn. And I'm trying to get all these. I want to get everyone to learn these things, because as a people, we can become better, folk. We can become better. Not only that, we can make things happen that we can do. But there are lessons that can be learned from all this, and that's including all of the Umar stuff and with the fight from Tariq Nasheed. So let's deal with this. And I should have put this in a graphic, but I didn't really feel like typing out graphics, because in the next story I got a lot of graphics too. So I'm just going to read them off of my tablet, and we'll go from there. Okay. Lesson number 1. When you make enemies, you will not have any allies when you need them. Over the past few years, Umar has made a lot of enemies in his community. And right now, with him facing this delicensing, it would be helpful if he had those same enemies that he's made, that were once allies, to come to help him right now deal with him being an ally. That would help him. But right now, he's made a lot of enemies. And what I'm finding out is, in a lot of these reaction videos, that there are a lot of folk in the conscious community. It seems like everybody that was in that Hidden Colors, that was with him during the Hidden Colors stuff, that everybody, have said stuff, or basically tried to distance himself from Umar. When you make enemies, you don't have allies when you need them. Right now, Umar, you probably need some allies right now. And not just allies that are, that are somebody with some say, like Tariq, to come with you to Harrisburg, because, they can actually vouch for you. Not for busloads of people to come up to try to vouch for you. That's not gonna do it. Lesson number 2. When collecting money for something, especially from the public, especially when you're supposed to be collecting donations, when collecting donations for something, show receipts. Yeah, as a result of all this, and the fact that Umar doesn't want to show receipts anymore, GoFundMe suspended his account. And at the time, the account was valued about $400,000. I think he raised close to $750,000, somewhere around there. And apparently 300,000 is missing or whatever. But they wanted receipts. And Umar said, F your receipts. And now GoFundMe basically said, okay, we're suspending your account. But when you're collecting donations, please show receipts, people. Show receipts. Lesson number 3. Don't get too big to be questioned and challenged, or too proud to be humbled. See, in this situation, Umar started feeling himself. He got a little notoriety, started feeling himself, and that's what's going on with him. Is the scripture is kind of clear that pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. And right now, this is what we're witnessing. So don't get too big that you can't be questioned or challenged, and not too proud, nor too proud that you can't be humbled. Because right now, this is a humbling situation that's going on right now. Even though right now, he may not appear that he's going to accept it, but there's some humbling that's going on. Lesson number 4. If you continuously refer to yourself in the third person, you are an asshole. I'm sorry. That is a pet peeve of mine. Okay? That is a real pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand it when folk refer to themselves in the third person. I don't care who you are. We don't refer to ourselves in the third person. Umar does that a lot. And it bothers me and it annoys me. It's annoying to me. No, we do not refer to ourselves in the third person. Nor do we sit up there and call ourselves the Prince of Pan-Africanism. Or call ourselves, when we sit up here dealing with these bishops and these prophets. If you got to title yourself something, you are, in fact, a false title, whatever that title is. So, if he's calling himself the Prince of Pan-Africanism, I don't know what that actually means, but to me, he's a false prince. He actually is a false prince, because where in the hell is his royalty or whatever? I don't know. But he's a descendant. I'm sorry, Tariq. That's your line. My bad. You keep that. I shouldn't have done that. But you keep that. Lesson number 5. Conflict doesn't necessarily mean disunity. Conflict can actually bring about a diversity of ideas. And what I mean by that is, just because these two are bucking heads and they're sitting up here going after this, and they're going through their own little spills over here and over here, but if you listen to what they're saying, you listen to what they're saying on some of their arguments. Like, for instance, not Tariq, but Umar, as his critique of Tariq is the fact that he hires white folk to sit up there to do his documentaries to expose white supremacy, but he has employed white folk. That doesn't seem right to him, and that's a good point. On the other side, Tariq is saying, listen, I'm in a position that I can hire whoever the hell I want to hire because they work for me. They're receiving my money because they're doing a job for me. And I'm in that position of power. And I will hire the best person for the job. And I can see Tariq's point in that. But we can also see that Tariq is, there's all different types of points that are going back and forth. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's disunity in the community. I believe that, as oddly as this is, that Tariq Nasheed and Umar Johnson wants to do what's right for the black community. I believe that. It's just their methodology and their ways of getting there are a little bit different. Okay? I believe that. I believe that's what they have in their heart. At least that's what they're saying. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Number 6. Oh, that's 7. 6. If you are going to hold anything accountable, you in fact need to be held accountable. Okay? Umar always wants to hold the church accountable for its, for its stuff. Okay? He always wants to hold accountable for the elders for what they do. But Umar, you need to also be able to be held accountable too. And when folk ask you for receipts on what you're doing with the money, that's accountability. You can't sit up there and take the notion that you're not being accountable. No. Accountability, if you're going to hold folk accountable, you have to in fact be accountable. I realize that for me. Why I don't get so upset when people challenge me on comments and things. Why I engage folk on the comments. I may not like what they have to say, but it is what it is. And when I find out that I'm wrong, I will do something about that. All right, people? Let's see where we at here. 7. See, Umar is like a preacher. Tariq is like a hustler. And both of them are pimping. But Tariq is being more honest about the game. What that means is that preachers typically do not try to deal with accountability well. This goes back up to number 6. And that's where Tariq is telling you, and he's telling you, hey, I'm a hustler. And I may do things that may sit up there and seem manipulative. Tariq, on the other hand, may say some things and do some stuff. Umar may do some things, do some stuff, and expect you to just accept it. Like a lot of these preachers out here just want you to just accept stuff. All right? Lesson number 8. If everyone is on one side of an issue and you're on the other, it is time to reevaluate your position. And reevaluate your position doesn't mean that you change your position. Doesn't necessarily mean that. What I'm saying by this is sometimes we could be so stubborn in the way that we view things that other viewpoints we shut out. And because other viewpoints we may shut out, you basically isolate yourself from other folk. And I believe that that is what has happened with Umar. that he has isolated himself away from everyone else, that everyone's over on this side, he over here. I'm just saying, at this point, when your peers and the folk who are the prominent people in the conscious community ain't messing with you, maybe you need to sit back there and reevaluate yourself, reevaluate what's going on in your life, reevaluate your positions, reevaluate your thoughts, and just go through basically a self-check. Not to necessarily see that you're right or wrong, but just a self-check. Number 9. Faking the funk will only take you but so far. We all know this. But it seems that Umar has faked this funk so much that people are starting to find the truth out about him. And it is what it is. When you fake the funk, your funk gonna stink. People gonna smell you. You can't sit up there and talk about, you know, that you clean and you smell like poop. That poop gonna shine. That cologne that you put over the poop, eventually the poop will overshadow that cologne, people. We know this. That funk gonna shine. So it don't matter if you just put on, if you don't clean yourself properly. Don't matter if you put on the oils and the soap. It doesn't matter, the oils, the cologne, or whatever. If your body funky, eventually the funk's gonna overtake, and now you really gonna be stank because you got the oils mixed with the funk, and that's just foul. And my final lesson, lesson number 10. Bantu knots is a hairstyle. I didn't know, people. I just didn't know. Yes, Bantu knots, they're hairstyle. I didn't know. I had to Google that. It is what it is. All right, people. Revolution, this is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Yeah, I had no clue that Bantu knots were, you know, were a hairstyle. So when he made that comment about the Bantu knots, about how he's going to tie his beard up in Bantu knots, and then he's going to take his dashiki off and slap him in the titties, and then he's going to give him Nefertiti rings. Oh, I fell out. But I'm just saying, I had to really look that up to say, what is a Bantu knot? And basically, you know, it is what it is. It's a hairstyle. But yeah, Umar is kind of hateful. You know, Nat Turner. Let me read some of your comments, and then we'll go ahead on to the final story of tonight. Let me read some. Nat Turner says that Tariq is no better than Umar Johnson, which he's correct. It's no better than Umar Johnson. Again, he is greedy, money hungry, opportunist, and he is trying to be a gangster rapper. He wrote books on macking, and now he jumps into the conscious community game. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Umar is a preacher. Tariq is a hustler. Both of them are pimping. They both are pimping. You know, that's what they do. They're both pimping, and they're both pimping the black folk. But at least Tariq is telling you, I'm pimping you. Or at least you should know that he's pimping you. Because that's what he's saying. Let me see what else we got here, people. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was the conscious Suge Knight. He wanted to be the conscious Suge Knight. Yeah. So, yeah. This whole situation, you can go ahead and look at it. You can go ahead on YouTube, We're on YouTube, but don't do it right now. Please don't do it right now, because we gotta get to this James Hall thing in a second. And but yeah, their videos are very interesting. Tariq is still going off on situations. I was just listening to one of his before I got started. I was listening to something that he was talking about as of today. And I think Umar has stuff that's going on, and they're going back and forth. But one thing about it, and I want to make sure that folk know that having these discussions in the public forum, it's kind of good. Malcolm X, he went after Martin Luther King. He went after Thurgood Marshall. You know, so you've had these discussions before. You had all these different, you know, people going at, like right now, we have another big discussion in the black community that I'm not talking about, but it's more on an academic level. But it's, you know, it's not as gutter and, you know, as what's going on with Tariq and Umar, but Ta-Nehisi Coates and Cornel West. This stuff can be good because, like I said, brings about a diversity of ideas. Cornel West brings out, you know, an older generation's perspective on what, you know, on what should be. Ta-Nehisi Coates brings out a millennials generation of how things should be. Somewhere the truth could find itself in the middle. That's all I'm saying. Just because they may not agree, you know, eventually, you know, instead of doing this, eventually stuff can get to agreement where some truth could come together. Now, you know, things can be unified again. But sometimes it's like this. It's okay. It helps. It will help. All right, so let's get started. Let's get started on the good stuff today. The good stuff. Here we go. I gotta bring this up. All right. Let me take another drink real quick. All right, Revolution, everyone. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and let's talk about this gentleman right here. He calls himself Professor James Hall. Now, James Hall, if you didn't know, is a gospel singer. He's a gospel singer. His big hit was "God is in Control." And I'm just wondering, is God in control, James Hall? Or is it you that's in control? It seems like it's a lot of you in control now. Alright, let's break this down. Okay. It came out this past summer. And I was given, people were asking me about it. And when I heard about this situation, I decided not to make a video on this because I don't really like to deal with the gossip of the he said, or the he said, she said, or the she said, she said. I don't really like to deal with all that. Okay? I don't really like to deal with all that because that's not the nature of what I do. When I report something, typically I report on things that have a legal aspect to it. I typically try to stay away from, especially, you know, I typically try to stay away from two things. Like I said, the he said, she said, he said, she said, she said type of stuff. And I typically try to stick away from the gay stuff because that energy that permeates throughout the church and throughout Christians, you know, folk really need to deal with it in a different way than, you know, harping on the gay stuff. So when looking into this situation and when looking into what's going on with this, I was very I really didn't want to deal with it for those reasons. And it's not that I, you know, want to sit up there and say that, you know, I just, like I say before, and I say this all the time about these issues, and when it comes to people, and it comes to non-believers, comes to believers, whatever, You know, I'm just going to try to love you where you are. I'm going to try my best to love you where you are, not where I want you to be. Okay? You know, I mean, it is what it is. All right? So now we got this cat. We got this cat, James Hall, right here. And he ended up in a relationship with a Jeffrey Thomas. Now, this Jeffrey Thomas out of North Carolina, apparently he got sick and met James Hall for some reason, and James Hall was taking care of him while he was sick. Hello? Folk need to understand, folk, real talk. Unless a grown man taking care of another grown man that is not his father, that is not his son, that is not his uncle, or close relative, like first cousin, something's very fishy about that. Something is very fishy about that. Especially when they're supposed to be sick and you're taking care of them. Well, James Hall, Jeffrey Thomas got sick, and James Hall said that he was helping him through an illness, that he was taking care of him through an illness. Red flags, red flags, red flags, red flags. Okay. So, pictures began to come out of a relationship between him and Mr. Thomas. And, I mean, pictures showed Thomas and James. They sitting there, like James is in an A shirt. I'm not going to call it a wife beater, but an A shirt. And he's sitting up there with no shirt on, and they sit up there talking about they playing around and all that, you know. So, those things came out back in May. But at the same time, because those pictures came out, James Hall, also Kevin Bond, Edison Bond, and the church, Citadel, City of Praise, or whatever they call that church, the Citadel, they filed a lawsuit against Jeffrey Thomas. Now, that lawsuit this past September got dismissed. Okay, cool. Got dismissed. All right. So now, Mr. Thomas, he came up and decided to file a lawsuit. Okay. Woo! Now, like I said, we got a lot of slides that we're going to go through, and we're going to go through all this other stuff and stuff that we're going to talk about. So let's get to that real quick. Let us get to that. Hold on, let me get to it.
Run your race. You are winning.
Second. All right. I thought I pulled that stuff down, but let's get to it, okay? Like I said, we got a lot of stuff that we gotta get to, and I'm just going to go through the court papers, and I'm only picking out some spots because, like I said, there's a lot of gay stuff that's going on here. All right. There's a lot of stuff, and I know that people want to deal with the story of what happened with James Hall and everything like that. I want to focus in on the corruption, on what the real charges are, because you can get to all that other stuff, you know, the more sexy stuff. But what really is going on is the fact that the church is that this church collected tithe from folk, because 99% of churches teach tithing, and you know, but they collect all these offerings from people. And tithing, by the way, is a false doctrine, but that's neither here nor there right now. But they've collected all this money from these folk, and if they knew that the Citadel Cathedral of Praise, or Citadel Church of Praise, or City of Praise, whatever they call that church, if they actually knew that their pastor is sitting up there taking money to basically fund a very lascivious, lifestyle. Sorry, I messed up the word. But how would you feel about that? See, this is why that whole tithing, the pastor can, I'm giving to God. And the pastor, whatever he does with the money, I give it to God. But especially for y'all folk that really deal with church folk, that really deal with this stuff and really hate gay folk. And y'all really go after the gay folk hard. Really go after the gay folk hard. How do you feel? How would you feel if you knew that your pastor would sit up there taking your tithe money to sit up there to fly his gay lover to a hotel, to fly them up there on the church dime, to fly them to a particular place and put them in a hotel on the church dime, buy them dinner on the church dime, and then sit up there and have sex with them in that hotel after they had that dinner and after they came up and fly on the church dime? How would you feel about that? That's the issue, people. There's a lot of corruption here. And not only the corruption, but there's also this notion of dealing with an STD, syphilis to be more specific, and it's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on here. So let's look at this first slide, and this is basically the summary of facts. Okay, I'm gonna bring this out a little bit so that you can actually, hopefully you can see it. I'll bring this out so that you can see it a little bit. You don't need to see me. But in the statement of facts, this is the first one. This is basically a summary of what's going on. The first thing. This is an action of malicious prosecution, transmission of a sexually transmitted disease, STD, assault and battery, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and abuse of process. Those are your charges. Defendant James Suggs, otherwise known as James Hall, is an American gospel singer, musician, and producer, as well as board member of the Defiant Church, Cathedral of Praise and Worship Incorporated, located at 105 Barnaby Street in Brooklyn, New York. Hall has performed around the United States and internationally at various churches and other venues, have recorded several albums, including God is in Control on Interscope Records, and has earned substantial income as a professional gospel performer and producer. So now we have those charges, and we'll break down those charges a little bit later. But let's continue on, and I'll break this thing down real quick. Now, when they refer to Mr. Thomas, that's Jeffrey Thomas, but let's look at this. Using Citadel funds and his choir group fund, Praise and Worship, Hall immediately began flying frequently to North Carolina to visit Thomas, have sexual relations with Thomas, and pursue a serious relationship with Thomas. Hall endeavored to convince Thomas to relocate to New York City to live with Hall. Hall also used the Citadel's funds to fly Thomas to New York and to various performance venues around the country, where Thomas would stay with Hall in first-class hotels, dine in first-class restaurants, shop, have sexual relations with Hall, and spend time with Hall, all on the Citadel dime. That's one of the summary of facts there. You know, find it interesting. Let's continue on with these, okay? When Hall first began to pursue Thomas, Thomas was employed as a school teacher in North Carolina, and he worked as a senior minister. Hall's pursuit of Thomas took Thomas away from his career, his beloved family, his life in North Carolina. based on Hall's promises to Thomas that he loved Thomas and that he would be monogamous and wanted to be in a serious relationship with Thomas, Thomas ultimately relocated to New York City to live with Hall as his secret partner at his residence at 450 Rockaway Parkway in Brooklyn, New York. Now, here's something that we found out in the Revolution, that a lot of these gay folk, especially these gay preachers and now these gay gospel artists, when they, you know, like, we found out that not only Eddie Long, but other preachers down there in Atlanta basically had like these had apartments set up all over the city. All over the city, where they would basically stash their lovers and let their lovers live there. And then they would go from place to place and whatever and be with them. To me, this is what this sounds like. It sounds like Thomas got set up to stay at 450 Rockaway Parkway, you know, as the secret partner. Okay? That's what that sounds like to me. That he basically stashed Jeffrey Thomas, you know. That's what that sounds like to me. So we'll keep that together. We'll keep that up in there and everything, you know. All right, now as the story comes along, all right, you can read all this stuff. You can find it online. I know that because I'm jumping around because I just want to deal with the corruption of stuff and basically deal with some of the other things that the story is basically telling you, because apparently they've been using money to the church's money in order to do some of these things. Okay, so you can go to Obnoxious' site, but just be careful because he likes to show dick pics, and I'm not really down for that. All right, but it is what it is. All right, Thomas moved out of Rockaway Parkway, but 3 days later, Hall showed up with flowers where Thomas was staying temporarily. When confronted with irrefutable proof, Hall admitted that he cheated, begged for forgiveness, and to make amends, promised to take Thomas with him on a gospel tour of Italy. Hall successfully convinced Thomas to forgive him. Thomas moved back into Hall's apartment, and December 2016, Hall took Thomas to Italy, with Hall and the Citadel paying for the expenses for Thomas's trip, the first-class hotels, fancy restaurants in Rome, throughout Tuscany and Milano. So, Citadel, how do you like the fact that that they paid for a romantic getaway to Italy? How do you feel that you paid for a romantic getaway to Italy? Yes, y'all paid for a romantic getaway to Italy. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Let's continue on. All right. When they went to now we're going to get into the next part of this thing. Because you saw the corruption, now you're going to deal with we're going to deal with the STD thing. See, while they were in Italy, Thomas found out that Hall still wasn't faithful. So Thomas got mad and left. You know, he left Italy, left him back there. So I'm going to bring you up to this point right here. When Thomas arrived back in New York, he began packing up his things to move out the apartment. While packing, Thomas discovered reports that indicated that Hall had been diagnosed with syphilis several months before. Thomas began to cry as he realized that he had been engaging in unprotected anal and oral sex with Hall, and that Hall had known that he had tested positive for syphilis, yet in all that time never warned or told Thomas. Later, Thomas confronted Hall about the syphilis, and Hall crassly responded, "Those are the risks we take," and offered little sympathy. All I'm saying is you knew that he was cheating for a while. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just saying. It is what it is. But, no, well, you having unprotected sex, that should be on you anyways. That's something that you should do. As Thomas sat alone in the apartment crying, he realized while Hall frequently had vision problems, red blistery spots on his neck, Hall had been lying and telling Thomas that he had allergies, concealing his STD while exposing Thomas to the disease. And Thomas surmised exposing all of those other men with who Hall had been having sex. So you mean to tell me that you've had syphilis that long, that you had syphilis all that time, that it's progressed to the point that you're having the skin spots and the blurry vision? Listen, folk, if you don't take care of that, okay, if you don't take care of that, syphilis can kill you. It can kill you. So James Hall, I know that you might be watching this because you use Google, y'all folk like to Google yourselves. And I know I put you in the tag, so you might see this. Listen, man. Please, go take care of yourself. Go to the doctor, get your... And here's the other thing about being diagnosed with syphilis. Listen, they tracking you now. The CDC is tracking you because that's one of those diseases that they want to get under control. So now your activity is going to be listed and be under control. Let me continue on. Now Thomas immediately moved out, went to a medical clinic, got tested for syphilis. Thomas's results showed that he tested positive for syphilis. Hall had transmitted the disease to Thomas without warning and without telling Thomas to seek medical care. Thomas realized that the relationship with Hall had been toxic, harmful, and was beyond repair. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And I think that I have maybe like one or two more of these. All right, now, before I get into this part, okay, because now we're going to deal with the Kevin Bond and Edison Bond. But in the court papers, let's deal with this, and then I'll go ahead and deal with my notes on this. Like Hall, his fellow board member at the Citadel, Kevin Bond, portrayed himself as a straight man of God, but the truth is he has been in multiple homosexual relationships with various men, sometimes using Citadel funds to pay for airfare, to bring these men to New York and house them in local hotels, book them through a travel agent, upon information and belief, always staying under the name of Karan Bass. Documents and messages confirm that Kevin Bond had sent several expensive gifts to Thomas during Thomas's relationship with Hall, including expensive clothes, hats, suits, and Versace ties. Something about these folk, James Hall and Kevin Bond, they in the hats. They really in the hats, and you've seen pictures. Okay, trust me, they in the hats, and I don't get it, but I guess they're very stylish and fashionable. But that's what they into. Let me finish this up real quick. All right, defendant's lawsuit falsely alleged that Thomas. Now this is the law. This was the lawsuit that Bond, James Hall and Kevin Bond in the church, they filed against them. Filed against Thomas. Defendant's lawsuit falsely alleged that Thomas was advanced or loaned monies from the Citadel by the defendant merely for ministry and personal reasons, for hotel rooms and other activities, concealing the fact that Hall requested and obtained funds from the Citadel to transport Thomas around the country and make reservations at hotels for the two of them to pursue their secret, intimate relationship. Seriously, church folk at Citadel. Yeah, your tithe money, your seed money is going to secret rendezvous. But y'all giving it to God, though. But they using it for secret rendezvous. And someone's going to be cursed with a curse for not giving. Listen, I didn't make this up. This is what's going on. Y'all getting secret rendezvous on your tithe money. But y'all gonna be cursed with a curse, or you cursed for a curse for not giving. But that's our fault. No. Really, Citadel. If you're watching this church, I hope that if you're watching this, I really hope that you realize how foolish you people are for allowing your pastor and them to do what they're doing, to do this stuff. I hope that you realize how foolish you are, and I hope that you stop going. I really do. But I digress. Let me finish up because this is the last slide. All right. However, all of the evidence, preserved text messages, and trust me, there are a lot of text messages, videos, and photographs and other documentary evidence, along with the transmission of syphilis, collaborate the fact that Hall aggressively pursued Thomas, moved Thomas to New York to be his boyfriend, that Paul was sexual partners with Thomas, that Hall promised to marry Thomas, that Hall moved Thomas into his Brooklyn apartment, that Hall repeatedly cheated on Thomas with other men, that Thomas discovered the extent of the cheating, that Hall transmitted syphilis to Thomas, did not warn him or tell him about the disease, that Thomas ended relationship, and angry at Hall, began to divulge the fact that Hall was a fraud, an imposter, gay, and a sex addict who may have transmitted at least one STD to Thomas and his other sexual partners. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Okay. Now, in that report, let me go ahead back here. In that report, okay, here are, in the court documents, here is a list of all the sexual partners that James Hall engaged with. Now, I'm not going to, well, yeah, I'll just go ahead and name it for the names that we had. See, if any of these guys are listening, please go get yourself checked out. Okay, please go get yourself checked out, because apparently James Hall is sitting up there loving to have sex with men without condoms, and somebody is sitting up there getting diseases and stuff. We got to stop this. Okay, we got to stop this. So please, if you're on this list, and you know if you're on the list or not, and if you're not on this list but you know that you've had sex with James Hall, male or female, please go get yourself checked out. But I'm going to name the names that are on this list that's on this thing, because this is mainly for them. It's not just for us to be about some of this stuff, but it's mainly about for them. All right. Hold on. There it is. All right. So we already know that Mr. Thomas, because he's the plaintiff, we already know that he's had sex with James Hall. Kevin Bond, in the report, Thomas said that Kevin Bond, Dr. Kevin Bond, not the Kevin Bond that's down in Atlanta. This is two different Kevin Bonds. I forgot. Two different Kevin Bonds. I want to make sure that we get it out there and get known, because I know that last week when this thing came out, a lot of folk were going at him and calling him stuff. But there's two Kevin Bonds. Okay. One's this Dr. Kevin Bond who we're talking about. There's another one that was like the minister of music down there in Atlanta with Eddie Long. Now I'm sure that he may have his issues, because he down there with Eddie Long, but You know, it is what it is. I'll just leave that be. Right now, I don't know about that stuff, but we're not talking about him. We're talking about somebody else. But Kevin Bond, who's a co-defendant, I'm not sure about his brother Edison. It's not listed in the report. The other co-defendant, as freaky as all this stuff was, he might have been with James Hall too. All right, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that definitely because that's not in the report. But there was one of the gentlemen that was brought up in the text messages of cheating. You know, that James Hall was cheating on Mr. Thomas with. These are all the other names of those who he believed that he was cheating on him with. There's a guy named Jermaine. There's a guy named Javin P. A pastor Daryl H. Man, I really want to know who that Daryl H is. A Terrell S., who is an elementary school custodian. Mark K., he's from Atlanta. There's a Philly W., who's a playwright in Chicago. And then there's this Lucky W., or his name is Lawrence. They call him Lucky W. Now, I saved him for last because he's going to show up in the charges. Now, they have all these charges listed, and we're going to talk about the charges real quick because they're very interesting. First charge is negligence. Hall knew that he had an STD and did not disclose that to Thomas, nor did he use condoms in sexual activity. So that's what they're using as the negligence charge. Battery. Okay, that's the second charge. The second charge is battery. Hall knew that he was infected with an STD, syphilis, and successfully transmitted it to Thomas. The third charge is fraud. Hall knew that he had an STD and concealed that from Thomas in order to keep having sex with Thomas. That's fraud. Now, here's another battery charge, number 4. During an Easter service, Thomas came to the Citadel of Praise Church through Uber, which was paid for by Hall, which is probably paid for by the Citadel Fund. He was confronted by Lawrence Lucky W. During that confrontation, you can read this in the court documents, and I was going to put up the slide for it, but I decided I already had enough slides. But it said, he basically said, "What the F are you doing here?" And during the course of that exchange, Lucky went ahead and found himself a baseball bat and started chasing Thomas basically out of the church. As he was leaving the church and chasing him out the church with the baseball bat, Kevin Bond saw what was going on and joined in the running and the chase after Thomas. Now, I guess Thomas was not running as fast. I guess those church shoes are hard to get some traction in. But Kevin Bond caught him and basically pushed him down. And basically, so that's the other battery charge. The fifth charge is malicious prosecution. Filing a fraudulent lawsuit against Thomas in order to hide the sexual nature of their relationships with Thomas. Okay? Defamation, slander, and libel. The defendants intentionally attacked Thomas's character publicly, claiming that there wasn't a sexual relationship, that Thomas was delusional, immoral, and not trustworthy. So, but you saw, like with the malicious prosecution, that lawsuit got, done away with. So now this is part of the other thing, where they took to social media, took to the publications, to magazines, and basically said that Thomas is a liar. Emotional distress. Yeah, he seems kind of emotional. And abusive process. Basically filing a fraudulent lawsuit against Thomas in order to intentionally injure Thomas. See, you can't necessarily just file lawsuits just to file lawsuits. You got to be some sort of right, some sort of grievance that you got to have. So they basically, because they lied about the lawsuit, that this charge is here. So there are 8 charges that, and it's not a criminal charge. These are basically civil charges that are being levied against James Hall, Kevin Bond, Edison Bond. I forgot to talk about Edison Bond. I'll mention him in a second. And the Citadel Church Praise. But Edison Bond is Kevin Bond's brother. Now, Kevin Bond's brother and Thomas, they actually had a sexual relationship shortly after, or maybe during, I don't know. But they had a sexual relationship with Thomas. And when Thomas decided to go through all this stuff, Bond had threatened to kill him. Threatened to kill him over this stuff. So there may be some criminal charges coming later on this. Now, I'm going through all this to say this, is that, yeah, all this stuff that we have as it relates to this story, yes, there's a lot of sexual stuff that's going on. But the issue is the fact that they're using church money in order to fund their lasciviousness and their, just a lascivious lifestyle. That should be appalling to you. That should be appalling to all you people who, believe that people should be up in the, on the up and up and righteous and everything like that. That should be appalling to y'all. But no, it's not. It really isn't. Now, will James Hall survive his gospel career with this? To be honest with you, I don't see why not. I mean, he's just like most of these other cats. There's a whole, let me put it to you like this. There are a whole lot of gay men that are in gospel music. There were a lot of gay men before Tone came out too. Okay? I told the stories of things that I've heard as a young man about the Gospel Music Workshop of America. I've told y'all about the Upper Room here. I don't want to rehash that place because that's a dark place to me. It's just a place where you have a whole lot of debauchery. But in this case, I'm thinking that debauchery happens at the Citadel Praise and Worship. At the Citadel of Praise and Worship, there's a lot of debauchery that's going on. Because it seems like they passing men around to each other. This type of abuse, they're passing men from one person to the next. When they get done with them, then they get the next one, and then when they get done with them, they pass them on to this one, and that one passes them on to that one. And it just seems like this has been going on for a long time. It's just that Jeffrey Thomas got up and actually believed the fact that he actually fell in love, I guess. Now, James Hall does have videos and stuff out. Obnoxious posted videos of James Hall saying how he loves him and everything like that. And he called him Jaddy and everything. It's just crazy. But this debauchery that's going on, it's just debauchery. And it's being funded by tithe money. So basically, we bring in the tithe into the storehouse in order so that there may be meat in my house. Yes, I use the scripture as a double entendre. because there were nicknames and stuff too for genitalia in the story and stuff like that too. But yet, that's what's going on, people. Yes, a double entendre. I'm using it again, and I'm gonna say this again. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, cathedral of praise and worship, so that there may be meat in my house. Because I think that they're using that as the double entendre and not necessarily what the scripture was actually, the supposed scripture was supposed to mean for that. At least according to how they teach it, even though they teach it wrong. This is just sad. So, like I said, do I think that that James Hall will lose his career? It's a good possibility. There hasn't been an outed musician that had, an outed as a gay, gay man, as a musician that has survived it. Tone outed himself, and because he did it himself, yeah, he basically fell on his sword. But there was one gospel artist, I can't remember, but there was a video of him basically performing oral sex, and I can't even remember his name. He was supposed to come out with an album. That video came out. The record company said, "Oh no. No, we're not releasing that album." And I don't even think they released that album. But it was about ready to be released. It was going to come out like about 2 weeks later. But when that video came up and he's sitting up there on it, just sitting up there on it, and they sitting up there showing, and they's like, nah, we ain't doing that. We scrapping this album. So I don't know if he's going to be able to survive this, but it's very interesting. But oddly enough, the pastor's going to survive it, because the people that are there to support him, they don't really, they're sheeple, they're serfs. That is what it is. So he'll probably survive it, but to the masses, for what he does, I don't think he'll make. But maybe again, the way that the climate has changed, maybe he may survive it. But to be honest with you, I hope Thomas gets every red cent that he's asking for. To be real for real. I don't care. And I put this out there on the social media, and I forgot to pull this up, but I'm gonna pull this up real quick while I'm sitting up here looking at you. It should come up quickly because I already pulled up the quote before. And William Congreve poem from 1697. It's called "The Morning Bride." And the line is, "Heaven has no rage like love to hatred, nor hell a fury like a woman, or in this case, a gay man scorned. It is a shame to lose half of the couplet in the..." Okay. Let me finish that up. Let me read that again. "Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, nor hell a fury like a gay man scorned." James Hall is learning how to deal with a gay man scorned. Revolution. Hey everybody, first of all, thank you all for tuning in this week. I appreciate everyone going in, and I'm trying to figure out if anyone is going through. Trying to see what's going on in the chat room a little bit. Trying to see if there's anything, you know. Yeah, a lot of interactions on this. You just have to, Warrior 1975 says, you just have to be exposed to the fullness of the black church. Don't let dysfunctional, hypocritical churches that you attend convince you that the church is like that. Womanati, Warrior, I'm not a stranger to the church. I've traveled the world in ministry, been on radio, internet radio, and church is the same everywhere you go. Yeah, the bad outweighs the good ones. Yes, that's true. Yeah, they're having a good discussion here. Those two are having a good discussion. You know, but yeah, this is something that that we going to continue to look into, and I'm sure that when the results of this lawsuit come out, that we'll know. I did reach out to the lawyer. He hadn't gotten back to me in this case. I'm trying to reach out to a clearinghouse that will look into Irishea Hilliard. So hopefully something will come back on that. And we will continue to follow Umar Johnson as he goes to try to deal with his license stuff, okay? Because he's more or less like a preacher. I mean, he goes around and preaches all over the place. And does it like a preacher, taking offering and everything. It's crazy. But once again, next week, next Wednesday, hopefully some good stuff will happen next Wednesday, over the week. Also, like I said, I'm going to start sharing my my audio journal on you know, in podcast form. So look for that link. I'm going to post a link to the podcast so that you can just download it via Spotify. I'm going to try to get on Spotify, iTunes, and the sort. Also, you know, I will put up for a few, you know, make it a video for this page, and that I can, you know, but I'll be sharing the links on my social media to the audio download. But I will be posting this up just a couple weeks. But look for a couple weeks or so. But also look for the videos as I break them out. That's how I'm going to post them up. This live stream, I'm only going to allow this one to be up for a week. Last week's live stream, when I get done with this, when I hit the end button, I'm going to delete last week's. So, you know, I give you a week to watch the whole thing, but you can watch the breakout, the individual videos. You can watch those, and that's how they're going to be. When I put up the individual videos sometime this week, this weekend, that's how it's going to be. So I'm going to be editing that up as well. So once again, everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Next week, shortly after 8, 9 o'clock, going to do the same thing. So with all that in mind, this is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. And, you know, I'm just praying that everyone has a good new year. I don't think I said Happy New Year, but Happy New Year. Pray that you all have a good and blessed 2018. And hopefully we can grow and make this a much better situation here for us as well here at the Revolution. So once again, I say thank you all. You know, check us out. Facebook.com/The Church Folk Revolution. Also, you can look at my Facebook page, Leonard D. Robinson II. And, you know, follow us on, follow us here. And if you like what you watch, please subscribe to this channel. Please share this video with your social network. All right. Once again, everyone, thank you all for watching, and I do appreciate it. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution.